3. Hello everybody. In this video we're going to take another look at bump maps, and I'm going to show you a quick little exercise that you can try to do perhaps to explore bump maps. I've got a 2048 by 2048 image here. I'm going to go ahead and create a layer, a new layer, and I'm going to come over to Filter, Render, Clouds, and I will get this. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a marquee selection of my entire workspace, and I'm going to drag a guideline in here. Because I have this marquee selection and snap on, it snaps right into the middle of this selection. I'll do the same in this axis. I'll do another selection in this corner here. Snap this guideline here, snap this guideline here, and I'll do one more marquee selection here. Once again, snapping guidelines to the middle of my selection. So now I have a nice 4x4 grid with 16 squares in it to do some explorations of bump map. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this corner as it is, but I'm going to select this one here because I have snap on, which you can find here under view. You can see snap is turned on, and I have rulers visible and extras visible. That's what allows me to see my ruler here, to drag these guidelines, and to have things snap as they're doing. So I created this selection here, and for the first one, what I'm going to do, let me zoom in on it, is I'm going to go over here to Image, Adjustments, and I'll just play around with the levels a little bit to create a little bit of a different effect than what we have in this top left corner here. And I'll say OK. I'm going to do the same for this square here. Once again, I'll go to Image, Adjustment, and Levels, but this time I'll drag this in the opposite direction. For a different effect. And that looks good. Coming over here, I'll select this, this square here. And this time I'm going to go over to my filters and explore some of these different filters and what I can do to this layer that I have selected right now. So I'll go to Filter, and let's try, what shall we try? We'll go to the blur first. There's a number of different blurs here, and I will just choose one of these blurs, and I'll blur the effect. I can play around with the level of blur that I want, and perhaps I'll go with something like that. Maybe I'll scale it back just a little bit. There we go. Coming over here, I'll pick another square and try another one of these filters here. So this time I'm going to go to Filter, Distort, and try some of these. Maybe I'll try the zigzag. And when I'm in the zigzag, I can adjust. I can make adjustments to this. We can also change the style here. I'm going to go with this one, the around center, and I'll say OK. Pick another square here, go to Filter, Distort, and this time maybe I'll try Twirl. Somewhat similar to what we just did. It is a little bit different though. And I will apply. Again, the idea here is to just explore very quickly a lot of different filters, learn about the filters, but also see what kind of interesting bump effects we can create with this. Go to distort again, and perhaps this time try ripple. We'll try ripple. You can see that you can change it to medium, small. I'm going to go with large. We can change the amount, and I'll say OK. Continuing on, going to filter, we can try a bunch of these other filters. I really do recommend just exploring and experimenting with them. For this one, I'm going to go to noise, and we'll add some noise to this. And we'll do something like, oh, perhaps this. Once again, we'll try something else now. Maybe this time I'll go to pixelate, and we can try one of these. How about, let's try crystallize and see what that does. Change the cell size here. And I'll say OK. Again, the idea here is to just cover the whole space with different explorations that we can then apply perhaps to a mesh or model in Maya or some other 3D software. Another good place to explore under the filters is here under filter, filter gallery. And by selecting that, you'll see that you have a lot of different options here, and a good way here to actually visualize the changes that you make before you even apply them. So for instance, I'm in texture right now, and you can see that there's a number of textures that we can try out here very quickly, very easily, and we can still make adjustments to these as well. And perhaps I'll try a couple of these. So here are my 16 explorations. I recommend that you just explore and experiment on your own using these same techniques. Remember, you're not limited either to just the filters and the levels as I did. You could use some of these squares to actually draw. You could try some of these other tools, but the purpose of this is really to just explore and experiment very quickly. Let's go ahead and save this out and bring it into Maya. So here we are in Maya. I'm going to go ahead and create a polygon plane. I don't have to do this, but I think I will. I'm going to go to my channel box here, and I'm actually going to divide these divisions just as we did in Photoshop earlier. In other words, I'm going to have this be 4 by 4. This really isn't necessary, but just so that we can very distinctly see where each one of these different little explorations is, maybe this will be of use. I'm going to go to my Hypershade, and I will create a Lambert. I'm going to apply that Lambert to my mesh. We could give that Lambert a color if we want. Maybe I'll make it a kind of muted red color. But the important thing is that we go to Bump, click on the checkerboard, go to File. Under Bump Value, we'll assign that image that we just made in Photoshop. Here it is, my 16 explorations. I'll open that up. I currently don't see it on here, but that's because you'll remember that 4 is wireframe, 5 is shaded, and 6 is textured. So here they are. Here are my bump map, the bump map applied to this mesh, and we can take a look at the individual explorations now. Now, one thing maybe to see this a little better, I might come in here and create a light. And position it. This way I can have a little bit more of a direct light on it, a less direct light. You can see that if we put the light straight on, we don't get quite the same illusion of the relief as if we have it coming at an angle. But now let's go ahead and take a look at these different effects here. So you can remember maybe a little bit about how I created these. You can see this would be a very useful one for maybe a stone type texture. This has a nice organic look to it, as does this. This is interesting because these look like they're coming out, whereas this one looks like it's pitted in. This is the one where I applied the blur, so it was kind of the same effect, just blurred. And we can take a look at some of these other examples here. Now, one thing I might want to do is select my material, look at its input and output connections, select its Bump 2D node, and here, of course, I can adjust the level of bump. Usually, I bring the number down. Usually, it defaults to 1, and I usually bring it down to a smaller value to get a more subtle look to my bump map. So again, I think that's a very valuable exploration to do to learn more about bump maps. And if you do know how to use 3D software such as Maya, or you can do the same thing in the Unity game engine or other software, I think this is, again, a really great exercise to do to explore these tools and techniques. Hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.